Stylish Garden Borders, Fences and Accessories 2025 Small Landscaping Ideas. When I approach the modern small garden, I think of it as a canvas waiting for order, rhythm, and a touch of artistry. The density of today's cities leaves us with modest outdoor spaces, but these spaces, when carefully articulated, can feel as complete as any vast landscape. The first tool we reach for in creating such harmony is the garden border. A border is not just a functional edge, it is the line of discipline, the architectural gesture that tells the eye where the garden begins and where each element belongs. Without it, plants blend and collide, and the composition loses its clarity. With it, the garden breathes in balance, every plant and pathway held in dialogue with one another. The year 2025 calls us to think not only about aesthetics, but about sustainability and endurance. This is why garden borders now rely heavily on clean, modern lines and on materials that stand the test of time and weather. Consider the use of steel or aluminum edging, metals that are resistant, enduring, and yet elegant in their restraint. They create a sleek outline, a crispness that sharpens the geometry of a compact space. Wooden borders, especially those crafted from recycled timber, introduce warmth and an honesty of material. Their subtle irregularities remind us that nature is present, even in the most deliberate of designs. Stone, of course, remains timeless, its textures and shades offering an organic contrast to the precision of metal or the softness of wood. Each choice tells a story, not only of style but of value, durability, renewal, connection with the earth. What is striking in contemporary practice is the experimentation with form. Curved borders soften the rigidity of urban layouts, bending lines into arcs that coax a sense of flow, a gentle rhythm that makes even a narrow strip of soil feel like a natural meadow. On the other hand, sharp and geometric borders reinforce the spirit of modern architecture. They echo the straight lines of a glass facade or the edges of a concrete terrace, binding garden and building into one coherent design. Both approaches are valid, and both transform perception. The curve expands emotion, the line strengthens clarity. It is this dialogue between shape and space that allows a small garden to feel much larger than its dimensions. Borders also serve as instruments of focus. A well-placed edge can guide the gaze toward a central sculpture, a small water feature, or a cluster of seasonal blooms. They frame the experience, just as a window frames a view. The garden becomes not a collection of parts, but a sequence of orchestrated scenes. Each border tells the visitor where to pause, where to wander, and where to rest their eyes. In this way, the border ceases to be a silent edge. It becomes an active participant in the choreography of the landscape. And beyond the purely visual, borders have practical consequences that elevate the functionality of the small yard. They hold soil in place, direct water flow, and protect delicate plants from being trampled. They define pathways, allowing movement through space without confusion or intrusion. In a small garden where every meter matters, such structure is not indulgence, but necessity. Without it, the garden risks dissolving into disorder. With it, the garden asserts its identity and its purpose. This is the essence of 2025 design, to blend the practical with the poetic, to allow the smallest detail, like a border, to influence the totality of space. Every line we draw, every material we choose, is both an act of control and a gesture of respect for nature. The modern homeowner understands this more than ever. They seek a garden that is easy to maintain, resilient in its construction, yet graceful in its presence. They do not simply want decoration, they want a sanctuary where design and ecology coexist. Borders are the first step in creating this sanctuary. They are the language through which the garden speaks order and intention. When I lay out a design, I imagine borders as sentences shaping the narrative of the yard. A curved steel line may whisper of calm and movement, while a crisp timber edge may declare precision and warmth. A row of stones may murmur of permanence and earth. Together, these lines compose a story of space, a story that welcomes the homeowner every time they step outside. This is why I tell clients, Do not underestimate the border. It is the most humble of elements, yet it has the power to elevate the entire landscape. It teaches the small garden discipline, it amplifies its beauty, and it prepares the stage upon which every other detail, plants, fences, accessories, will perform. In 2025, we have learned that even the narrowest yard can embody grandeur, so long as its borders are thoughtfully conceived. The border is where design begins, and from its strength, the rest of the garden takes shape. If the border is the first line of order, then the fence is the defining wall of character. In a small garden, the fence is never just a boundary. It is the frame around the canvas, the backdrop against which the living picture unfolds. Without it, the garden feels unfinished, exposed to the chaos of the outside world. With it, the garden becomes enclosed, intimate, and intentional. In the compact yards of modern homes where neighbours live only a few metres apart, the fence becomes an indispensable architectural element, both practical and poetic. Privacy is the most immediate role of the fence. It shields the small garden from the watchful eyes of the street, muffling noise and creating an atmosphere of retreat. Yet privacy alone is not enough. In 2025, the fence is expected to embody multifunctionality and aesthetic sophistication. Consider the vertical slat fence. Its rhythm of alternating boards allows air to flow, while the narrow spacing preserves seclusion. Painted in muted tones, it dissolves into the background, calming the eye. Painted in bold colours, it becomes a statement piece, commanding attention and setting the mood for the entire yard. This duality makes it both a protector and a performer in the garden's design. Living fences take the idea even further, merging architecture with ecology. Imagine a wall of climbing plants, ivy or jasmine weaving through a lattice, transforming a rigid structure into a breathing surface of green. Or consider hedges sculpted with precision, each leaf contributing to the living architecture of the garden. These fences not only soften the hard lines of construction, but also invite biodiversity. Birds nest, bees forage, and the small garden begins to hum with life. This is designed not only for humans, but for the environment we share. In cities that crave balance with nature, such living boundaries are becoming more than trends. They are necessities. Hybrid designs capture yet another dimension of 2025 thinking. Wood combined with steel frames or bamboo threaded into metal grids create structures that balance strength with warmth. The metal provides endurance, the wood offers texture, and together they embody resilience and elegance. In this way, the fence is no longer a monotonous surface, but a layered piece of architecture, echoing the layered complexities of urban life. But perhaps the most revolutionary concept is the fence as a space of utility. Gardens are shrinking, and so fences evolve into vertical extensions of the ground. Integrated planters, shelves and trellises turn walls into gardens themselves. Herbs can sprout at eye level, flowers can cascade downward, and vegetables can climb toward the sky. In this verticality, the fence ceases to divide, it begins to create. The once passive wall becomes an active participant in the daily rhythm of gardening, cooking, and living. Technology, too, finds its way into this domain. Fences now host discrete lighting systems, automated irrigation for vertical plantings, even modular panels that can be rearranged as needs shift. A fence can carry solar panels to feed energy back into the household, or sound dampening layers that make a busy street fade into silence. Each of these innovations transforms the fence from a mere edge of the property into a core component of the home's identity. From an architectural perspective, the fence also functions as a stage set. Its texture, colour and pattern determine the way plants and accessories are perceived. A pale wooden fence can make dark green foliage glow vividly, while a dark painted surface can create depth, pushing the garden visually outward. Patterns of slats or perforations can cast shadows that shift with the sun, adding a temporal dimension to the design. Every choice in fence construction becomes a decision about light, sound, and perspective. What I tell clients is this: the fence is not to be thought of last. It is not a box around the garden. It is the skeleton that holds the body together. In a small yard, it occupies more visual real estate than the plants themselves. Treat it as a blank canvas, and you can paint upon it your personal aesthetic, whether it be minimalist and contemporary or rustic and organic. Treat it carelessly and it will dominate the garden in silence, flattening its potential. In 2025, the most successful small gardens are those where the fence becomes architecture, sculpture, and ecology all at once. It is at once a protector, a creator, and a storyteller. It holds back the world, but it also extends the garden forward, reminding us that boundaries, when designed with care, are not walls of limitation, but walls of possibility. With the border providing order at the ground and the fence creating structure in the vertical, the small garden now has its bones. The stage is set, the room is shaped, and what remains is to furnish it with details of life and personality. That is where accessories enter, as the final brushstrokes of the designer's hand. Once the borders define the ground and the fences shape the vertical frame, the garden still awaits its soul. That soul emerges through accessories, the subtle and expressive details that transform a structured yard into a lived sanctuary. Accessories are not mere additions, they are the instruments of atmosphere, the layers of character that reveal the homeowner's identity. Without them, a garden risks feeling like an empty shell of geometry. With them, even the smallest outdoor space breathes warmth, intimacy, and life. In 2025, lighting stands at the forefront of this transformation. Light is the architect's brush, drawing shapes after the sun descends, extending the garden's existence into the evening hours. Solar-powered lanterns glow like suspended orbs of warmth, requiring no wires and leaving no trace on the Earth's resources. String lights crisscross above narrow patios, creating ceilings of stars that invite conversation and laughter. App-controlled LEDs allow the homeowner to shift mood at will. Warm amber for calm evenings, cool white for lively gatherings, or subtle shades of colour to highlight a feature tree or a textured wall. Light transforms function into theatre, and in a small garden where every square metre must count, it is light that multiplies dimension and emotion. Water features, even in the most compact forms, continue to hold an almost magnetic allure. A wall-mounted cascade no wider than a painting brings the constant murmur of flowing water, masking urban noise and introducing tranquility. A tabletop fountain ripples gently, reminding us of nature's rhythm in the middle of concrete surroundings. These small interventions consume little space, yet they amplify serenity, proving that scale is no limitation when design is purposeful. Planters and pots remain essential instruments in this orchestra of accessories. Their mobility and versatility give the designer freedom to evolve the garden through seasons and moods. A ceramic vessel in deep indigo can anchor a corner with gravitas, while a terracotta pot introduces rustic warmth. Eco-friendly composites, light yet durable, allow for vertical stacking or modular arrangements that maximize space. When grouped at different heights, planters create visual tiers, stretching the perception of depth. They give the small garden its rhythm, its layers of complexity, and they invite endless reconfiguration. Today, a splash of bright flowers, tomorrow a cluster of herbs for the kitchen. Furniture, too, must be reimagined for the reality of compact living. The era of oversized patio sets has passed. In their place come folding benches, bistro tables, and modular seating that can be rearranged or tucked away. These pieces embrace functionality without overwhelming the spatial composition. A folding bench against a fence transforms into seating for a quiet morning, then collapses to make space for a family gathering. A modular chair system becomes a lounge on one day and a dining arrangement on another. Flexibility is elegance in 2025, and nowhere is it more necessary than in the intimate garden. Technology continues to weave itself into these details. Smart irrigation systems learn the rhythms of weather, delivering water precisely when and where it is needed, saving resources while ensuring vitality. Automated lighting responds to motion or schedule, ensuring both efficiency and security. These invisible systems work in the background, elevating convenience while reducing maintenance. They allow homeowners to spend less time managing and more time living in their gardens. Yet accessories are not merely functional. They carry the emotional charge of memory and personality. A small sculpture, placed at the meeting of two paths, invites pause and reflection. A collection of wind chimes stirs the air with gentle sound, reminding us that a garden is not silent but symphonic. Cushions, rugs and throws in outdoor fabrics bring softness, turning stone and wood into a place of comfort. Even in the smallest yard, these touches create intimacy, signaling that this is not just a design space, but a lived one. Balance is the guiding principle. Too many accessories and the garden becomes cluttered, shrinking under the weight of its own decorations. Too few and the space risks sterility, lacking warmth and personality. The art lies in selecting pieces that resonate with the garden's character, with the homeowner's story, and with the rhythm of the seasons. A lantern here, a planter there, a bench beneath a tree, each chosen with care, each allowed to breathe. This balance extends beyond human comfort into environmental responsibility. The accessories of 2025 lean toward materials that are recycled, renewable and long-lasting. Solar over electric, timber over plastic, composites that repurpose waste into beauty. These choices acknowledge that the garden, though small, participates in the greater ecosystem. It is a sanctuary not only for people, but for the planet itself. What emerges from these layers of detail is a garden that is both stylish and soulful. Borders provide order, fences establish structure, and accessories bring identity. Together they form a trinity of design that redefines small gardens not as compromises, but as opportunities. The limited space demands creativity, and creativity in turn reveals beauty in simplicity. When I complete a design, I walk through it in my mind as though guiding a guest. I see the border directing their path, the fence enclosing them in quiet intimacy, the accessories greeting them with light, sound and comfort. I imagine them sitting, breathing, forgetting the density of the city beyond the fence. This is the purpose of the small garden in 2025, not to mimic vast landscapes, but to distill them, to hold their essence in a more personal form. It is a sanctuary, a retreat, a stage where design, function, and sustainability meet in perfect balance. And so the small garden, once seen as a constraint, becomes a frontier of innovation, with borders that discipline, fences that protect and create, and accessories that inspire. Even the narrowest yard becomes expansive in spirit. In every detail, there lies an invitation to slow down, to reflect, to live beautifully within the limits of space. This is not just design, it is architecture for the soul.